Okay, since I'm currently in Miami, I thought I'd talk to you guys about traveling for work when you work in the news media, and how you get to travel and what it's like to travel. So, how you get to travel is one, you have to work for a company that has money to spend on traveling. And for the majority means you're going to have to work at a big company that has excess money and is willing to send out reporters and producers on field pieces, at least in the digital media space. So one, you're just gonna have to work for a big enough company that has a lot of money to spend. Two, you're gonna have to prove your ROI for that company, because travel is inherently pretty expensive and the margins on news are pretty low. You have to show whatever company you're working for that what you're making or writing or reporting about is worth the investment. And since most of news media in the United States either comes out of LA or New York City, it's mostly going to involve trains, or planes, or renting a car. So for instance, just this week I rented a car Monday, drove for a couple hours to tell a story. Friday flew to Orlando, then drove to Tampa Bay, then flew to Key Largo, and then from Key Largo drove to Miami, and then I'm flying out of Miami tomorrow back to New York City. So it's a lot of traveling, and within just this week, every single day, I'm on the field telling a story or reporting a piece or filming something that will be a video. I silenced my phone. But what that means is that it's a little bit like being on tour. That there's not a lot of time to see the sights. I'm currently in Miami and I'm exhausted. Not going out, and I got a flight in the morning. So you got to prove your return on investment to the media company if they're going to send you places. Whether that's writing a story and pitching that story and being like, this story will do really well and blow up and be viral. That's kind of the best way of showing return on investment in news media, because there is somewhat of a layer between revenue coming in and how content is sold on the branded side, and on the editorial side, if you're working on an editorial side like writing stories or making videos, and not working on the branded content side. So your best bet at showing ROI is making content that gets lots of views or readers or engagement. And you're going to have to prove that over a while. You're not going to get to travel right away, for the most part. It's kind of a pay your dues kind of thing. And even then, when you do travel, a lot of times it's just stressful. You're moving from one thing to the next. You've booked as many stories as possible. If you're in a state like I am, Florida, you're trying to book a lot of different stories in the state of Florida because you're trying to make that money count, so that plane ticket count. So when you come back, you don't come back empty-handed. You come back with multiple stories, and if one story doesn't do well, that's all right. You got a couple more left in the chamber, and hopefully one of them will do well, meaning that that ROI paid off. So one, you got to show the company that your ROI is good, and two, you're just gonna have to work for a big enough media company that has the money to do that, and a lot of media companies just don't. That's just the nature of the news business, especially in the digital media space. If you're going into a digital media company thinking you want to travel around and report stories, you may be able to travel around a little bit and report local stories. If you live in a metropolitan area and can just take a bus somewhere within a 30-mile radius. But for the most part, most journalists, video producers, anybody dealing with news media in the digital space is going to be working at the office every day, figuring out how to find footage off the internet, off Twitter, licensing footage, cobbling it together off Getty Images, and kind of making a phone call, making a Skype interview. You're not going to be traveling and reporting stories. It's not like the good old days of linear television or even old school newspaper field reporting. There's just not the money for that anymore. So with that being said, that's how you travel, or how to get to travel. If that's really what you want to do and you really want to travel, gun for the biggest media companies you know of. So that's going to be the CNNs, the NBCs, the Fox Newses, the Bloombergs of the world. It's not going to be the Politicos, the Axios, the BuzzFeed Newses of the world, the Verges. I mean, you're not traveling very much when it comes to those smaller news media companies. So that's how you get to travel. What's it like to travel? Well, often you're carrying a lot of gear, one, especially if you're working in video, and you're rarely traveling alone. A big combo is either two producers will go out in the more digital media age, where it's kind of this producer-editor style. So often they'll send two producers, editors out in the field that can both shoot and edit video content and tell stories and that have an editorial background. You'll rarely travel alone. And that's partly also because you're carrying a lot of gear around. You're not just carrying, your clothes and a notepad. You're carrying, behind this camera, there's two massive Pelican cases full of tripods, cameras, different types of lenses, lights, lavalier mics. And you're carrying that around everywhere. So it's not enjoyable by any stretch of the imagination. So that's, I think, just gives a little bit of reality to the situation of what it's like to travel. You're having to deal with batteries and SD cards failing on you, working around people's time schedules if you booked a story and then suddenly they're late and you got to be at another place, or you have to, a lot of times the coordination becomes a real difficult issue. So, it's not glamorous at all. And I think it's something that a lot of rookie people coming into news media are really interested in, traveling around. They're going to tell this great story. They're going to go to Venezuela and Caracas and get on the ground and tell the story. They're going to go to Tokyo, Japan, and talk about, the new tax that Japan has done, the Sayonara tax. Look into that if you're curious. But that's just not feasible and realistic from a business standpoint. And don't you ever forget that the news business is ultimately a business. And that if you're not making the company money, you're not going to get to travel anywhere. And the company's not making money, then you're certainly not going to get to travel anywhere. That the company's interest is just making content that will make them money. And if they're able to make content, they'll make the money from you working in an office. That's what they're going to have you do. So a lot of young people coming into media, I think, like to travel or want to travel and realize, oh wait, there's not a lot of opportunities to. But that's you can work your way to doing that. But once you start to travel around a bit, it becomes pretty laborious. I've been up Boston for things. I've been DC, Florida, Texas, Mexico, California, and oftentimes they're very quick. And I think a lot of times you can also be more productive working from the office. Traveling is a really easy way for media companies to burn through money fast and ultimately collapse, especially if it's your desk or your team. And if you happen to be working in a news media company or on a team that's traveling a lot, as great as that might be, you should stop and think in the back of your head, what is our burn rate on this? And what is our ROI? What are our KPRs? Are we hitting our numbers? Because if we're just traveling around a lot and our stories aren't doing well and we're just, burning through revenue, the company's probably going to cut you or cut your team or lay you guys off. So sometimes traveling isn't the right decision. And you should be suspicious if, a team or a job you're joining is offering to, you get to travel a lot. Well, if that's the case and you do end up traveling a lot and everybody's traveling a lot and the content you're making, whether that be, posts or articles or videos or anything, memes, for goodness sakes, TikTok, social things, musically stuff, if that's not doing well, there's a good chance that the larger, business side of the company is going to be like, get rid of these people. And I've seen that happen time and time again, where people get a hold of a budget, they immediately spend the budget on traveling, and then, 2 quarters roll around and everybody's gone. So that's kind of the realities of traveling. But like I said, it can be done. And if you want to travel, gun for the biggest media companies you can get a door in at. Anyway, just a thought for the morning, guys.